Hello and welcome to today's ladder game. This is Morax versus Taizai, as we so fondly know him, on Point of Reach. So, this map, well, what can we say about it? 20x20. It's considered to be a fairly high APM map, and there are a lot of things to do. It's got water, so Navy is generally quite important. A lot of raidable mexes with frigates. Air power is also important, because if you don't have air, then all your navy dies to air, then you can't do drops, you generally have more threatened mexes, and you're vulnerable to snipes. And some people would say land is important as well, because, well, it's very easy to get Tech 2, or even if you're like Seraphim or Aeon, you just get one of these islands and start spamming a few land units across. It's quite common, and even with sort of Cybran or UEF, you can get Tech 2, get amphibious tanks, and they start doing havoc as well. So, general BO on this map is a transport rush, and having tested it, it is possible to do an interdiction build order where you go for interceptors and bombers and just try and deny the person's transport. For whatever reason, this distance is long enough that you can actually put interceptors in the right location and shoot it down if that is what you wish to do. It requires a specialized build order knowledge of timings, but it can be done, as opposed to Seraphim Glacier where you just fall flat on your face if you try it. But most people aren't really that fussed, and they'll just go either interceptor first to try and their luck, or they'll just say, I'm going to build transport first and rush it, because that's just the simplest thing to do. You'll also see that most people will send a second engineer, if not the third one, to go grab the mexes. They don't completely mass stall, but ACU, movement-wise, most people will say this map goes in anti-clockwise direction. So it's very common to see, because there's just more places to transport to drop, they'll just transport on the middle island, then drop over to the furthest island. But conversely, that also leads to the situation where you can drop clockwise, and because there's no middle island to drop, you'll drop all your build capacity on the 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock island versus very limited build capacity of your opponent, and thus you should be able to take it. That's the theory anyway. ACUs tend to move to, well, it depends. ACUs can move. Safest option is to move to the island that's most horizontal to you. You see some people be aggressive and decide to go harass the island they haven't landed on, because that forces PDs, forces land units, and forces a general response. Even though you're not going to take it, it'll still do damage and forces a good, I don't know, sometimes up to 1,000 mass, which are not spending on things they want to spend. So you can see here Taizai has decided he wants to go for this island, no scouting. He decided to intercept the other island, and defending his own transport, which is a bit strange. But he has 5 engineers in the Mantis, and Morax has, well, 4 engineers, so yeah, Taizai should win this pretty handily, assuming he's paying attention. He is not, and oh dear. Oh wait, no, he only dropped 3 engineers and a Mantis, and he dropped his other 2 over here, which can be done if you wish to challenge for this island, but I don't agree with this decision, because, well, the ACU generally comes here, then that generally swings it in this favour. The opponent will scout it, and they can build land factories. That generally means this is a mass donation. It's also harassable by frigates, and that should not have happened because he wasn't paying attention to Mantis got reclaimed, when the Mantis was the thing that should have got him to take hold of this island, but, well, Morax was on point, paid attention, and reclaimed everything. And the question is where the transport's gone, and if you wanted it was quick enough, you could go and grab this island as well before Taizai could go, because he just failed this drop, but we'll see. 2 Tech 2 mechs already on the way for Taizai, and he actually has the mass, and he has the power for it. Well, it doesn't have the power for it, but it does have the mass for it. More transports on the way. Not the greatest move, but yeah, his power back isn't that bad. Morax, on the other hand, same as well. 1 Tech 2 mech, second one coming up, has mass in the back, has energy and mass in the back for more if he so wishes. We're going to wonder how much Zui cancer is going to come. You can just send Zuis in a nice line in places, but the problem is Zuis are expensive, and when they have this long to raid, they're vulnerable to interdiction by frigates, which will just cream them if they're in a line. This is why you will see there's a bit of thought and counterplay involved in regards to, if you're Seraphim or Aeon, you would prefer this island, as the distance to land, and therefore ships can't actually hit you, is much shorter than, say, from here to here to here to here. So it's toss up whether you decide to go the normal route, or you assume your opponent's going to try and grab this so you get it faster, or you assume your opponent's going to grab this so you try and grab his island instead, and you just try and defend as best you can with frigates. It's a toss-up, which is why I would say scouts. You should be able to scout where your opponent is going, and that should give you some knowledge, but regardless, you can try and tilt the scales another way or another, because, well, Wagners, you can do drops. Every faction can do drops, some can do it better than others, but we can see there are 3 land factories going up, a 3rd one's coming up with Taizai as well. The problem is what this is going to do. If he sent these everywhere, he could perhaps be a nuisance, but the ACU is here, he'll just go bulldoze straight through the middle. There's no way there'll be enough units to stop that in time. Drops coming in. Okay, that's a really impoverished transport. And this is why you also see some people decide, at least I know Ajax does it, is the evil build like spans this small section with anti-air turrets just to deny drops, which unfortunately is also expensive. Because the thing with defense is you can always avoid them. If you invest, then sure, you're defending it, but at the same time you may never have time to all the it depends on your APM, your preferences. Some people just don't want to deal with having drops on their front of the island and just tech it safely. But on a map like this, you would generally argue that the center 4 mass points of each expansion phase are the safest ones. You could argue that this one isn't because, well, this is vulnerable to being raided, or this is generally the first islands to be contested rather than these ones. And we have a cheeky drop of just Thams. This island, there's no factory here, so if this exploded, it'll take a while to get. Normally, it's either build a land factory or they build a naval factory nearby. And we have seen a switch to spamming out some frigates. No Tech 2 air planned, or no Tech 2 planned for sea. It's 10 minutes, and generally you see Tech 2 by now, just before the generators. You need power on this map, just due to how much mass you'll get. And this I don't particularly agree with, building factories on your opponent's island, as you'll generally face, well, higher build capacity, so if worse comes to worse, you just build more factories and outbuild whatever the hell is here. It's also closer to the air, so they can just build bombers and get rid of it as well. Or, in most cases, you'll find there's also Tech 2 in the area, so if worse comes to worse, just come here, build a few Tech 2 PDs, and, well, unless you magically decide you want to invest in Tech 2 land in this area as well, then it's generally not going to end very well, but, we'll see what happens to it. I wouldn't do it, but I'm not the one playing. I don't see any Tech 2 land on the way. That generally comes pretty quickly as well, just to get the amphibious tanks across before any meaningful defences can be set up. More Tech 2 mexes. These are in slightly weird locations, because I thought this should be Tech before these ones, but I suppose, if you follow the argument that these should be spread out, then at least if attacks come, they just come in a wave on a single island, then you're not all your eggs in one basket. Counter argument, just defend that basket better. These mechs being upgraded to Tech 2, probably disagree with. These are very vulnerable to raiding. Well, these are dropped, and if it's going to the island, but these are vulnerable to attacks by frigates as well. No radar. Oh, there is a radar here. PD, mechs not taken. Random engineer, no radar here. And here we see Medusas being dropped, and they're just blowing up mexes. The question is whether they blow up this one. This can be killed with a frigate though, so these technically need to be much more centralized. Also, no radar, so they can't see what's coming for them. This got cleaned out. Should be cleaned by frigates because it hasn't moved back to the center of the island. That needs to be rebuilt, which is annoying for Taizai. Units being dropped in an attempt to harass. Well, emphasis on attempt to, but Nex is still alive. And frigates being sent in. But the question is why? This can be raided by frigates technically, but otherwise, not much else. This is just a mass donation, really. This is still alive somehow, and these Voltus are coming, but, well, there's enough AA here to cause some headaches. But you could also argue that, well, if this crashes, all this mass, and eventually you will get this. Oh, look, there you go. Tech 2 Engineer, Tech 2 PD, Zuis. When the Zuis are done with this, they can just be dropped somewhere else. When the Engineer's done, they just control KO T2 PDs, and you have a whole bunch of mass to reclaim and rebuild the Tech 2 mexes anyway. It looks like it's it looks like it's going to be an air fight in this area, and, well, there were Zuis dropped here. These are all Tech 2 mexes which will explode horribly, and that is a pretty shitty move order. I think there was more there for Morax anyway, even though there were frigates here that might tilt the balance. That is an air win for Morax. So gunships will now be unopposed. This is also why I prefer having Tech 2 land on this island, or at least one of your islands, so you can build flak, and that makes gunships irrelevant. The amount of gunships required to overwhelm an equivalent mass of flak is just not doable. Okay, maybe we'll see a con drop, because Tech 2 on the commander I can understand, gun less so. I mean, he was planning, if this was taken by Tizer, then okay, I could understand it. You get your beefed up ACU and just run in and take it, but it's not, it is. Unless he wishes to end this, get Tech 2 transport and drop on it, which seems a bit excessive and overkill, but there we go. Mex is not taken yet. Factory placement as well, there is a way that you want to do that as well. Some people will say build factories around hit, and also that denies access to this island. Some others will say build it around your main island to stop people from just running in and harassing this. But this generally doesn't achieve very much, because you're not defending here, you're not defending this either. Or you could, yeah, this isn't bad either. It's just placed at the front, far closer to the front line. You have far less time for reinforcements. This as well, this will generally get people to be very shy of harassing these two mexes, and even then by proxy defending this one as well. But now we have gunships coming in, and the question is why. There is a whole pile of build capacity here, and these traces are going up very, very quickly. Okay, they're going to kill the Tech 2 mechs, but are they going to kill the Tech 2 mechs? No, they don't. That's been repaired, so it doesn't die, and now you have gunships just die for free, and they lovely reclaim behind, because Volkers are more expensive, and do more damage than other factions' gunships. They need subsequently more reclaim. I think, anyway. 242, I guess it was the 180 or something like that. I'm not particularly sure. This should still be shielded, because Nothers are a thing. 2 Nothers and that will explode. And Taizai is looking to eco-whore pretty hard. And speaking of eco-whoring, there's a Tech 3 Max on the way. All of this is Tech 2, and by contrast, Morax is very behind on economy. This still hasn't been taken, this isn't Tech 2. Getting nano repair now, okay, maybe he's having a con drop after all, but if that's the case, then why he's so slow on it? He has air control, so he can just nano con drop this island and take it. He could probably also nano con drop this if he wanted to, that would be far more risky. Yeah. Okay, we have whole piles of air factories built, but not building anything. All of these mexes have been cleaned up, which isn't bad. There needs to be more AA in these locations. Tech 2 mexes are vulnerable, but after that, this wasn't a great attack. Yeah, you can see that Tizer has air control, and he will now clean this up, no problems. This would have been a better target. You just have mexes everywhere, and the commander isn't there. The lack of build capacity is, well, not lack of build capacity, it's far less. Meanwhile, in the middle, you have, this is what we consider to be a terrible idea, since you have equivalent numbers of frigates. If you had more, then you could kill this and kill this naval capacity, then fine. But that's also assume that you can get the reclaim afterwards, because if you kill this and then leave it, all that does is it slows down the build power, but then it's like you leave behind all the reclaim as well. And that's basically what's going to happen. These frigates won't achieve anything, they'll die, and that'll leave a few, maybe 1,000 or 2 reclaims for Morax to take back. How is this still alive? What the hell? This has denied 4 mexes. I don't know who this is worse for. I don't know if it's worse for Taizai because he's still wasting economy on this, or it's worse for Morax because he just can't take this and eco it, but he will eventually. And in the meantime, you can just eco. If these can't go to Tech 2, tech other mechs. Tech these for fuck's sake. Now they're very pimped out ACU with no targets, and oh yes, 5 kills or something. But yes, this middle attack got -3. Middle attack got tidied up, no problems there. This doesn't take it for some reason. Frigates go harassing, they prevent these naval factories from being expanded upon. Zuis again denying the rear island, need radar, generally want radar on all these locations. Because, well, this is a better one, but better is Tech 2. Again, you probably want Tech 2 radar here just to prevent drops coming in around the side. You can see the holes here. Taizai could get a drop around the back and it will be in before anyone could say anything about it. So, good idea to have. Although Tech 2 radar on the map that is with so much mass, not a great expensive investment. It won't be protected very well, but people generally have their APM elsewhere. And that's why if you also concurrently want to drop, you should spend the APM to bomb radars as well, just so that you can't see them coming in. And that is a very, very lonely destroyer that's about to get mobbed by frigates. Don't do this. It looks like we have more drops planned. You've got transports. My question now is why they're not Tech 2. Tech 2 are much faster and also chunkier, and they can, well, move faster, chunkier, and carry more units. The question is why wouldn't you? He's building Tech 2 from here. The question is why don't you just upgrade these to Tech 2? Then if you're just building ints that has build power, you can build ints twice as fast as well anyway. And that Tech 3 mech is done. Somehow, Taizai's managed to get the economy to push that together, and oh my god, all this eco horror, all of this going to Tech 2. No regrets, no fear. It needs more power, getting more power. Gonna see who jumps to Tech 3 first. At the moment, build power, building Salems. This is a criminal lack of frigates. He's cybering and not spamming frigates. This is not good. And well, we have destroyers coming around the side. What you probably want to see is a cruiser being parked here and start picking off all these Tech 2 mexes. If you have air control, then you can deny torpedo bombers. But I suppose the distance is very short that a lone cruiser... Well, as long as a cruiser kills 2 mexes, it'll probably pay for itself, and you don't really care otherwise. But it takes a while to respond. People generally don't very quickly. Or you can park it closer to, say, here, and then you can just extract it from this factory if you want to, but just lone Zuis. Destroyer parked on the coast. This should be able to clean all of this up very easily, because, well, Taizai's kind of pinned in right now. There's a massive naval advantage for Morax. That's it, 35 frigates. 35 frigates and 4 destroyers versus an absolutely pathetic 10 frigates and 3 destroyers, so Morax could split up his entire navy, and he probably should, and Taizai couldn't do anything about it. And that is basically the difference. There is a second T3 max on the way, there's another 3,000 mass in the bank, and Morax doesn't eco as much, so he should have more units, and he does. The problem is he's just kind of hanging around in the middle, not doing anything. This could be pressuring here, this could be pressuring the navy to stay here, and the cruisers can be parked wherever the hell they want and start blowing up mexes and just penalise the fact that all this eco is being built. He sees torpedo bombers, so he should probably be wary of where he's sending his units without air cover. Two is being sent in, this is being slowly demolished as it should be. Don't know if they're in range of the T2 mexes because they probably aren't. Seraphim and UEF destroyers have 60 range versus the 80 of Aeon and Cyber. Cyber can walk on land anyway, but Morax needs to eco. He needs to either decide he wants to keep pushing with Navy and deal more damage than he takes, or he just ecos. But this isn't doing very much. And there's another air fight. The torpedo bombers come in, he tends to destroy the destroyers. I don't know if I would do that, because although he's lost build power and he's lost some air and he's lost some units, he hasn't actually lost anything critical. This is what he wants to defend, and that hasn't died yet. I would have left my torpedo bombers for, although it's very, very hard and you need the discipline not to shoot these things, let's just wait until the cruiser shows up, because that's what's going to deal the damage to you. But on the other hand, if you have air control and you can delete these things, then do it. And Taizai has air control. Morax is floating into Tech 1AA range, and all the interceptors die. So all of these units will just die to torpedo bombers. That means reclaiming for Taizai to take. Lack of radar needs to be addressed. And actually these mexes might die to Zuis if he doesn't rebuild this very quickly. So he probably wants to airlift some engineers across just to rebuild build power. Meanwhile, Taizai is trying to catch up in the Navy game. Loads of build power being sent over here, kind of idle, not doing anything, probably wants to Tech 3 sonar. This Salem is going the wrong way because, holy shit, that parking. He's just going to park it up here, is he? That's not a bad idea, actually. You can park it up here. I've never seen this before. But if you park it up here, then I don't think the Seraphim destroyers can angle their beam cannons high enough to shoot you. That is actually an ingenious move. But these destroyers are in melee range. There are pretty much as many frigates as there are destroyers, and this is what you definitely don't want to do. Seraphim cruisers that's not a good flight path, as everything will melt. And that is definitely what you don't want to do, and oh my god, no, 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 no. Okay, that was lucky. There are enough torpedo bombers to just kill the cruisers, which is generally a sad thing to see. Seraphim cruisers, you generally want to approach from as many directions as possible, because if you send like, I don't know, 8 or 9 in a single volley, then the flak will kill all of them, but if you space them out, then it's far better. Also, never build Tech 3 gunships against Seraphim cruisers, they will die horribly against the flak. Equivalent mass-wise, gunships in Tech 3 gunships, at least the UEF and Cybran ones, will beat cruisers, except Seraphim ones. Aeon ones are very tasty, but UEF perform the worst. Cybran also perform badly against Tech 3 gunships. Seraphim cruisers perform really well, and Aeon ones are just great face anyway, but they also die equivalent in Tech 3 gunships. Why you? There was a phase when Slow on Roanoke would just rush Tech 3 air, ignore Navy, and just gunship everything to death because you can. They are that effective. And what's Morax's plan? It looks like he's going to dedicate himself to the Tech 2 Navy game with destroyers, and there's been no damage done with cruisers, even though he could have damaged this with cruisers. He doesn't seem to have the air capacity either, and this ACU is still upgraded but doing nothing. Just why? It would have been dangerous now because Tizer has air control, so it would have been a bit of a bad move to drop now, as he would just Corsair or torpedo bomber to death. But at least the one thing is he's reclaiming after the fight. I like to put one. Destroyer numbers 5. C probably has more. And the problem is, most people will just double click on this destroyer and group them all together. So the one thing you cleverly placed here is walk back round against. Alright, back into the water. Torpedo bombers again, unleashing carnage. And dealing also. This is what happens why you need air control, this air parity. If you don't, torpedo bombers will be unleashed and they will make your life hell. Then as soon as you have to retreat of your navy, you leave behind a very, very juicy vast field, and I'm guessing it's at least 20,000 no, 15,000. Not far off. Build a factory, attack move on this corner, build a naval factory, attack move over here, drop engineers there, do something. Dizer needs more power and he knows it. Someone needs to jump to Tech 3 and get the Tech 3 generators. Somebody, please. Tech 3 air on this map, generally considered quite killing effective. Every strat bomber can probably... No, the Aeon one can't, but I'm pretty sure every other strat bomber can drop in the middle of these 4 mechs and it'll kill each of them, it'll kill all of them in one pass. Cybran, yes. UEF, yes. Seraphim, I'm pretty sure, yes. Aeon doesn't really have much AoE, so I'm pretty sure that's it doesn't. But even then, Aeon air is generally nothing to sniff at either. Restorers are quite effective. There's no anti-air here of real significance. Side frigates is probably anti-air, but they won't stop restorers. Solaces as well, quite effective, quite fast. You combine that with air staging and they're basically never die. Get ASFs, they'll clean up all of this. Tech 3 air, quite strong. Tech 3 Navy is generally also seen in later stage, but that's very expensive, and you can see Tech 3 air first, just because it does more. And, well, the torpedo bombers are slowly being cleaned up, and again, these sailors are in fucking melee range. Arguably, you could say that they're using torpedoes, but there's not enough frigates. Frigates will are just free to deal damage to the sailors, and now this just throws back the mass in Morax's favour. The question is why? That's a lot of Zuis. These factories are still building Zuis, it seems, in order to deal with Delta infestation. These will control K to stop it. These need to be control K. That's what they want to do. More build capacity, just looking very lonely. Finally, Tech 3 Air comes from Morax, building Tech 3 generators. Units here being wasted, nothing. This is when I would just start saying, right, break out some Tech 2 transports, load up all your spare units, and just send them somewhere. Send them everywhere, and see what happens. Because right now, it's like, air control wise, well, you can see Tizer doing that. He has transport, just using these. Also making a jump to Tech 3 Air. I don't know if that's because it's in response he sees Morax as probably a response to that, but he still lacks power. He still horrifically lacks power to fight 7 Tech 2 P-Gens, and how the frack did these get here? Oh well. This is why you need Tech 2 radars everywhere. Fun fact about the Cybran Tech 3 sonar platform. It technically says it has a stealth field, and you would expect that it means this large brown circle is the area of effect. It isn't. For whatever reason, that's actually a bug, and I'm sure we'll see it later, where the brown circle will suggest your forces are under stealth, but your enemy can still see you. And this reclaim field, 18,000, very tasty. Morax needs to upgrade his economy on the back of that, but Taizai ahead on reclaim figures by a good 10,000. Unstorage mexes, and all of this still Tech 1. This question is why? No Tech 3 mexes yet either. He can see his opponent has Tech 3 mexes, but he just hasn't responded to it. Again, torpedo bombers on the field, invalidating pretty much everything which isn't a cruiser. And it's like, well, Seraphim have access to floating flak, and the question is why not? Some people also say invest in Tech 3, get Tech 3 shields as well, who also hover. And so, okay, expensive, but on a map like this, so much economy and this much reclaim, don't see why not. Black would happily deal with this because flak can't be targeted by torpedoes because they're hover. But you could also say that the final thing to do, well, the thing to do is not build however many spy planes this is, because they're like 200 apiece. Yeah, 200 apiece, and you only need at most 3 at this stage of the game. You're sending in 15 times 200, that's 3,000 mass. Your this is worth 3/4 of a T3 max, and it's just overkill. You can see what your opponent's doing, I suppose. And the answer is third Tech 3 max. And the problem is right now is that, well, destroyers are dying to TAC missiles. Oh, the calamity and tragedy. Cruisers, still effective against naval units, can force your opponent to keep moving. Destroyer numbers down to 3, holy crap. And now Taizai is guilty of exactly the same thing, where he now has the naval advantage, pretty much due to the fact that they were torpedo bombing everything. And he's not splitting his forces. He knows he has air control, well, he doesn't anymore because there's ASF on the field, but when he did, could have easily moved destroyer here, and just start blowing up islands, but just didn't. Seems to be a recurring theme that people just treat this as a naval fight and say, I will group all of my units in one area because it's just more effective to. Well, okay, Morax did try it, and then he got torpedo bombed because he lost air control. So the question is, what now? Taizai has moved into the water. Does he have stealth? Yes, he does. So he can't be seen. Well, he can because this spy planes contain Omni, so no matter where he is, he won't be safe. You should technically stand on the beach, or just on land and the beach. He's building hives, he's building Gemini, he needs more power, he needs more grid. He should build a grid. Invest in a grid for ASF, because this game looks like it's going to drag on a while. There's a pretty much inconclusive naval fight. He has the advantage, I'm pretty sure. 7 destroyers. 13 destroyers, double the amount of destroyers for Taizai. But again, a criminal lack of frigates. The fact that he has more destroyers than frigates is pretty criminal, basically. And, well, the question is, how is Morax going to deal with this? You could say Zuis, but he'll just run away. You could say ASF, but he's going to get air control, but it doesn't look like he has a plan to do anything with it. Like, you see what the difference is. Like Taizai is building ASF, he still has torpedo bombers, and technically even if your opponent has air control, you can still use torpedo bombers to pick off like destroyers with priority targets. And then even though you lose torpedo bombers, they've done their job. It's kind of like in a land battle, you commit bombers to formations even though they're anti-air there. You weaken them sufficiently that whatever force you have now have the advantage to push through regardless of the enemy, what the enemy has. And you can see Taizai just happily sitting and hoovering up the mass. And this has just become a standard naval battle where whoever loses the main fight yields the reclaim. And now you could say that, well, what's the plan? You could build artillery on these shores in order to help your fighting, People often overlook that, but there doesn't seem to be a plan for Morax. There's Tech 3 Air, ASF just coming in. No Tech 2 radar on this side. More scout planes overhead. More Salem's dying to fucking tactical missile launchers because no boy. But nearly, not quite. And again, lack of ecoing. And it looks like Morax has had enough and wants to move in. And technically he can. But for whatever reason, Taizai seems to have lost a lot of destroyers. Yeah, he's down to 9. And, well, stealth is invalidated because there's stuff flying overhead. I still wouldn't fly my units here because A, you have cruisers, and this is not really defending anything anyway. And you have no idea what numbers your opponent has. For all he knows, Taizai's managed to catch up on ASF and he'll just pounce from an angle that means that he's always going to be behind you. So it's generally a bad idea to wander off into enemy territory unless you've scouted it and you know exactly what you're dealing with. Oh wow, I missed this. So I guess there was a drop over here by Taizai, and that was not defended properly, so this is all these mechs points have been deleted, these factories aren't building anything. It's a purely Medusa, so this should be able to clean this up, but if he loses the factories, he'll lack the engineering capacity to rebuild quickly. And this is exactly what I mean. According to this, right, your frigate should be covered, but if you see from the opponent's perspective, it's not. The ring is much smaller than it would be indicated on your sonar. And what's his plan? There doesn't seem to be a plan. It's just ASF production and then hoping he's going to win the naval game, which he can do because he now is actually the recon. He just needs to get it really quickly. His engineers are doing nothing. Has he sent engineers? But these aren't reclaiming, and he needs the mass. He needs Tech 3 mexes. He needs more mexes, more economy. I'm pretty like they're Tech 3, disgusting amount of Tech 3 mexes, and eventually Taizai's just going to be able to outproduce anything that Morax throws at him. I'm surprised, given the amount of mass he hasn't moved up to Tech 3 Navy. 36 minutes, no Tech 3 Navy. Tech 3 Air? Fine. No Tech 3 Navy in order to compensate for this. And Morax just wandered into destroyer range, and he has no idea how many destroyers are actually here. And he just lost things, and his commander's under attack. He finally has a use for this commander. His HQ has been sent preemptively around 18 minutes ago, and all these upgrades, just in case his eventuality happened. Now he can rebuild it with happiness and glee. His engineers have started reclaiming, so he needs more power in order to spend this mass. He looks like he's trying to build a grid, but he just barely has enough power to run all the mass he has. What does he? He needs to be upgrading more mexes at once. He needs an economy. He can see all Tech 3, pretty much all Tech 3. That's Tech 3, well this is Tech 3, that's Tech 3. It's like, eh. Now Morax is suffering from a lack of frigates. There should be just lines of factories building frigates because they just absorb fire that build more useful units don't take. And you can see, yeah, complete lack of frigates for Taizai. Rebuilding the mass, and is that Tech 2 generator in the middle? Okay, that's a strange choice. I'm not sure that was meant to be the case, so it was just shields. Morax can see there's a complete lack of anti-air in this. And if he scouted, he would know he would have more air. So he should be switching to torpedo bombers just to force the issue, or at least force his opponent to make sirens. But instead, it's like all these support factories are building torpedo bombers, which they should be. Not sure they should still be building interceptors, these are now completely obsolete, and they still waste mass. Because, what, they're 50 each, and, well, this is 100, 5,000 Tech 3 mechs sitting there. Again, missiles coming in. Like, I swear, so much of this damage has just come from attack missiles because Taizai is sitting freaking still. Getting ever closer, and why are they sitting here? Look, another one dead to attack missiles. Like, eh. So we hit a lull. Main fighting is in the middle. Frigates, this formation is a bit strange. Being sent in like this won't do very much. But starting at this range either isn't doing very much for Morax either. He either needs to stay far behind, like the outer range of the sailors, or he dives in or to close to he can actually deal damage to the sailors. But the reclaim field unfortunately can't move forward to this area, so you have to decide whether it's worth to fight over it, or whether you want to eco harder. And in Morax's case, he can probably see that he lacks the economy to fight on an even keel with Taizai. He doesn't know this, but he does have equal reclaim. But you can see 400 and 230, and somehow Morax is still in this fight. Now my PC is maxed out. Alright, let's see what we can do. Sonar platform has moved back. It doesn't need to be on the front line technically because of the range of it. But the question is, why are there no stealth boats? Build some fucking stealth boats. Barracudas, these are generally very good to deal with frigates anyway, and they just can't be shot out from surface, and the Sheriff Destroyers in this type of situation won't be close enough to kill them. You just tell them to hang back a bit, and they'll deal with any pesky frigates that decide to come in and chew up your destroyers, if that's what they want to do. 14 destroyers versus 14 destroyers, so equal destroyer count. We have cruisers. Cruisers are being on Taizai's side, but I wonder if they've seen that there's a nuke site. Oh, he has given an attack order for it. So what Morax probably wants to do at this point is force an engagement, cause Taizai's navy to retreat over to the left, and then his cruisers can happily sit off the shore and start working on this. And I don't think Taizai has noticed this. Either he needs to run in and just bulldoze away to kill the cruisers, or he starts into building TMD very quickly, or all of this is going to explode, and the Omni is here as well. Oh boy, this is going to be expensive, and this will actually chew through this shitty shield very quickly. He's sending his torpedo, he is sending his torpedo bombers to deal with it. And they are being chewed up by flak. And the ASF are coming in as well. And he's telling them to retreat. I don't think that's a good idea. If you're this far in, you're committed. And the point is, if you kill the cruisers, your nuke site, never mind, it's dead. And everything goes up in smoke. Oh, expensive. Absolutely expensive. All these torpedo bombers now get ripped apart. And the question is, what's Morax going to do? He now spots Taizai's ASF, and there's some paltry Tech 1 AA here, no SAMs. And Taizai looks like is he giving? Are these ASF chasing them with their own accord, or are they because they shouldn't because they are going over cruise? Oh dear. That is not what you want to do when you're behind an ASF count. Is A, chase your opponent to where they don't know where they're going, and then fly over multiple cruisers so you lose the rest of them. He only has 16 left from 14. Oh, ouch. But he lost a nuke, so the question is, he has mass, what's he going to spend it on next? He could build another nuke. He knows he's lost air control, so he's building SAMs. And Morax now knows he has convincingly won air. There is a complete lack of anti-air in this location, but he doesn't have a plan for what to do. There is no switch to offensive. Okay, there we go. His plan is to go for strat bombers. So is he going for a snipe? Is he going to try and just blow up everything on this island? He can do. If he has the mass, he has the mass. He doesn't have the mass for it. He can try and reclaim the mass for it, but he can invest in strat bombers and start blowing everything up. He should probably set 80 ASF. Right. He has complete air dominance. He should invest in some air staging, not mass stall and repair them, but C hasn't really got much of a response to the fact he's just completely and utterly lost air. He has made no attempt to expand his expansion of like ASF production. It's still relying on a single Tech 3 air factory. No attempt to like build any of these into Tech 3. They would still get decent adjacency bonuses if there's no Tech 1 generators. No SAMs planned either. No cruisers. So yeah. There could be an absolutely abhorrent amount of aerial carnage on this navy, and there'll be nothing that Taizai could do about it. But Morax has chosen to go for strats, so let's see how this works. The strats are expensive at 2.5k a piece. I think that's correct. No, 2.1. Okay, fine. Cheaper than I thought. And somehow I missed it, but this island has completely gone. I guess these Zooies did the job, so that's pretty much only tickled Taizai's economy, because that wasn't Tech 3. 444262, like, eh. Morax still has cruisers just lying around, and these could definitely just sit here and park off this coast and start bombarding this if he wanted to. Since he knows he has air control, these won't be targeted by torpedo bombers. Or at least they won't be very easily picked up by torpedo bombers, especially if he parks his air over it. It's being pushed back again. The sea has controlled the reclaim field, and he has so much mass in the bank. What's his plan? He has to do something with this mass. He could, no, he can't build a Soul Ripper. Say, you could even build a Monkey Law and send it on the side if you want to be cheeky about it, but no Tech 3 Navy. No, there's a Tech 3 Navy. And he looks like he's going to build... he wants to build nuke subs, which are harder to detect, but they do less damage. Even the nuke does less damage. He's at unit cap. He's at complete unit cap, so he can't actually build anything. He's control K-ing random shit that he doesn't need. Well, so many engineers. How many engineers has he got? 341 engineers. At this point, you can say, reclaim this, all this can die, all the Tech 1 PGens can die, ASF are flying overhead. Are we going to see... Are we going to see torpedo bombers come in? No. All these destroyers are sitting in a happy blob, doing anything, not being micro, just taking fire for no reason. And the strats are being moved out. The strats are being moved out, haven't been spotted, and Taizai is building a fucking disruptor. Because when you're this rich, the answer is why not? The question is why not? But at the same time, he's got a single shitty shield to defend him, and I don't think he can see that the bombers are coming. He hasn't scouted what's happening either. And whenever you lose air control, one of the things you need to do is to scout, just to see what your opponent is switching into. He might switch to a nuke, he might switch into artillery, he might switch to a different tech, but because you've lost air control, oh no, you did see them. And technically you should have heard them too, because the sound cue is very distinctive, just no matter where you are on the map. And, well, the Barracudas are too close for comfort, and if he loses line units, which is generally a terrible idea. But now we actually have enough frigates that Taizai can't cut through this. Enough of a meat shield that the destroyers can disengage safely. More of the reclaim goes towards his way. And that's a scout overhead. And given how he knew he's lost air control so thoroughly, this is a criminal, disrespectful amount of SAMs. And I wouldn't be there go the ASF, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just points and clicks on the commander and says, "You die now." But we finally see torpedo bombers from Morax coming in and saying, "I have air control, you have no AA, it's time to deal some damage." And where are these aiming at? Are we going to see a comm snipe? Because I wouldn't do that at this stage. It looks like that's what... Okay. I was going to say that's what we're going for, but now these are splitting up and attacking power gens and SAMs. And that's just... And he didn't clear the air before he did it. Oh no! Disaster! So he ends up aiming for multiple things and ends up killing nothing. He didn't send in his ASF first in order to clean the air, and now he's lost pretty much... He's lost at least half of his strat bombers, but all that's going to die and just free up Taizai's unit cap. So... Now what you know, the strat bomb landed in the transport, so it was blocked. Taizai got away scot-free, but you can call that mission successful since they blew up 2 PGens and they blew up the disruptor. But I think he could have just gone straight for the commander and killed him. But as a result of that, Morax still has total air dominance. All these tall bombers will die for free. There's not enough SAMs here to cause this much ASF any trouble. These strats should be running around blowing up all of these mexes. There's no SAMs here, there's no AA here. All of this can die, all of that can die. Instead, I don't know, do we have enough torpedo bombers to cause damage to this fleet? Probably yes. Which makes you wonder, why are the cruisers in melee range? Why are the destroyers in melee range? When you technically just sit back, save them, and let the torpedo bombers do the job. But he needs engineers on the double in order to reclaim orders. He doesn't have the economy to just sit back and just not deal with this. He can take care of this island, just take it over and then aim with the Seraphim. This is not ecoed. And C is complaining that he finally had been able to build something from his naval yard, even though it hasn't been building. So it's like Morax as well hasn't transitioned to Tech 3 Navy, so we haven't seen battleships, we haven't seen sub-hunters. But finally, he wins air control, uses it, it's his turn for torpedo bombers, and everything belonging to Taizai's navy just melts and dies horribly. At this stage, you want to state, why were there no SAMs here? Why was there no artillery here on any of these ridges? Tech 2 artillery is quite effective against Navy when you get sufficient numbers. Arguably less so against Tech 3, but, well, at that point you wonder what else are you doing. And Taizai just has a lot of build capacity into throwing up galaxies. And he's run out of destroyers, he's pretty much run out of frigates, and all of this reclaim, holy shit, how much reclaim is there? 60,000 reclaim is just sitting here, and that pretty much all belongs to Morax. He needs more engineers on here on the double. And he has them! He just has them littered about, but he doesn't have the transports to... This has not been building anything. He needs Tech 2 transports in order but it's 8 PM, it's 15 minutes in, people are fatigued, you might not have the willpower to say click engineers, click transport, start reclaiming everything. But, well, there you go. Torpedo bombers just pretty much having free hunting season. These engineers are massacred. These destroyers want to push in, but the question is how much damage can they inflict. He has air control, so technically anything that Taizai throws up should melt instantly. And you can see the play here is just to neutralize this naval production. Meanwhile, Taizai's economy is still so much stronger. Still 13,000 reclaim ahead. The question is, what's he going to do? They'll say he's going to rebuild the giant gun of doom, Cyber and Vanity project. But the problem is that actually the best move that he can make? Again, he has hives for this. Technically one way you can counter not building a grid is say, I have enough resources to just throw into hives and just spam build ASF with hives and utilize everything. But this doesn't look great for Taizai. There's strats overhead. Will they hit the hill? They all hit the hill. Oh, horrible, horrible, horrible terrain. But the problem is, what was he actually trying to aim for? He blew up engineers and medical factories. Why? He could blow up the mexes, he could blow up the support factories, he could blow this up if he wanted to. And actually, Morax has completely run out of steam. He has 7 destroyers, but there are now 2 battleships sitting here. Enough frigates, and the battleships aren't going to go down very quickly. And these destroyers are running out of help, and Morax has run away. Those strats came in at an awful angle, did nothing, weren't even aiming for anything vital, and now he's just handed Taizai another 20,000 in reclaim. Not ideal. Now we see the Tech 2 transports moving out. You see he's going to try and reclaim this island. There's a profound lack of engineers in the middle. Like this is where he should be dropping and taking over all of this mass. Profound lack of eco, it makes the eco god very sad. Don't know if that should still be building destroyers. You would argue that maybe he should be building... He should technically go to Tech 3. You could argue they should go to Tech 3 and start building carriers. Though I know the Seraphim carrier, for instance, has TAC missiles. Yeah, he has a TAC missile launcher. And people will say, at least I know in Setons, they start building carriers with AA just because they're much harder to knock out with torpedo bombers. And they still do decent anti-air damage to the point they can take on Tech 3 units pretty effectively as well, but wow. Morax has mass and no power, and that looks like the Disruptor's online. Fun fact, Tybrans generally saying that we have lasers, we have we pretty much pride our accuracy, have the shittiest artillery accuracy in the game. And they just go pretty much the orc approach. If you throw enough shit at something, some of it will stick, and they have the highest rate of fire as a result. But I don't even know what he's aiming at. This is actually pretty fun. What is he aiming at? He is aiming at the generator. He is aiming at the generator, and that is the fucking spread of the thing. Whereas if you just had an Aeon artillery, it would just kill it in one shot, because Aeon is retarded. But now, we have galaxies moving in. We're pretty much, again, a pretty pissy frigate escort. And these are pretty damaged, actually, and I don't think they're going to survive against this amount of shit. Carrier is moving into position. These ASF are just being picked apart for free. Zooey Wave is coming in, but I don't think that will actually do anything, because there's enough build capacity here that he can just build Cerberus towers, as crap as they are, will deal with Zooeys fairly well. He has cloaking, which I again feel is an irrelevant upgrade. You technically, okay, it'll give you around 10,000 hit points, but when you're at this stage of the game, when you just fly spy planes over to see you anyway, I don't think that's what you want. But yeah, battleships being sent along the ocean, cruisers in melee range, not a good idea. And Morax has his own battleships in the area as well, in a far better position, since this can deal with this far better than this can deal with that. Let's see the Zooey's coming in, needs to respond quickly. Only one artillery piece again. No attempt to retake these nexus, no attempt to rebuild artillery here. These engineers on the reclaim mission, 83,000, and Morax has finally gone on top of the reclaim field, but there's still another 40,000 here. He could have built his own nuke launcher with that, and he should be building Tech 3 PGens on this island, not Tech 2, but he's gone. Oh well, no, I lied. He lost his entire Tech 3 power grid, didn't shield it. And that actually, a disruptor can't break through Seraphim shields very easily. I don't think it can if you're well shielded enough. But he should have immediately started building Tech 3 Peaches or these more power on the other islands to compensate. But on the other hand, at times I'm unable to break through. We have local superiority for Morax. And the question is, can these battleships break through and get rid of this? Because all this eco will be for nothing. See, Tyler down to his 2 islands. His navy isn't great. He doesn't have air control, and it's a matter of can he hold on. The point that he can hold on to A, his vanity project, and B, stop himself being bombarded to submission by battleships. He needs more gunters. These ASF is being picked out of the sky for free, and we're approaching the 1 hour mark. We're approaching the 1 hour mark for a 1v1 ladder game, and, well, I can feel the fatigue from casting. I can't imagine what they must be feeling. But, yep, Taizai has a minus 1,000 mass. Oh boy. The Bastol is immense, and, well, you can see here, he's kind of hemmed in. There are no frigates here, so the Zooeys will actually deal with this very effectively if Morax redirects them. If these go all the way in this direction, but he has no radar, so he doesn't know that this is galaxies only, there's no frigate escort. But this battleship is trying to move around to position in order to bombard from this angle. These battleships as well, actually in position and started laying down fire. But, well, the problem now is that their battleships aren't focusing fire, and they're dealing with these shields one at a time. If they were on the same side shooting at the same target, they could overwhelm this, blow up the generators, and maybe give himself a reprieve. But now, Disruptor, is that aiming at the commander? It looks like it, but... yeah, it looks like it's aiming at the comm. This is finally Tech 3, but again, catastrophic power failure. He needs to stop building this, because all of these engineers are consuming so much power. He needs to rebuild his power grid as soon as he can and shield it, but he's pretty much on a last-ditch attempt to just blow up this base. And, well, I'm not sure he needed this many carriers, since if he still had air control. So I'm not sure whether carriers were the greatest move. If he had those with battleships instead of carriers, he actually might have changed that differently. Yeah. He could have had an extra battleship instead of these 2 carriers. And he still has 3 here. He still has 3 battleships when he could have 5 dealing with this, and he would have won this. Battleships? They're kind of split right now between dealing with the oncoming battleships, which isn't a good long-term solution because, well, his economy's in tatters and tries to just build more, versus just focusing down the base. And I think focusing down the base would be a better option because, well, he's pretty much just, he should have one option, kill this navy before bombarding the base, or bombard the base totally. He's doing both at the same time, just winning neither. So it looked really dicey for Taizai for a while. Like his nuke got blown up, his disruptor got blown up, he should have been sniped. He lost the middle, he gave up a shit ton of reclaim because Morax had air control and decided to finally do something with it. But this disruptor is finally earning the mass that it actually cost to build it. And, well, blew up all the P-gens. Nothing was shielded, because who the fuck builds a disruptor in a 1v1 game, even a team game, which is laughed at really. And I don't know what Morax can do right now. He has no more economy to build anything of value. He hasn't bothered to reclaim anything. I think he's suffering from massive mental fatigue at this stage. And the point is, I just give up. But at some point, if you ever get in the situation yourself, like your opponent is probably hurting as much as you are. And if you can reinvigorate yourself for a short burst, just rebuilding shit, like I think Morax has tried that right now, saying I will rebuild my Tech 3 PGen, but this is way too late. Just spam everything. Shield it. Just shield beat disruptors. And they won't beat the other ones, like say, definitely won't beat is it an emissary? The Tech 3 Aeon artillery piece? I think it is an emissary. Shields don't beat that because that thing is a pile of OP garbage, but yep, and now Morax has decided I'm going to try and break this base in submission. And he's having a little bit of success, it seems. But oh, that was out of shield coverage. Didn't target the shield generator. And Taizai is using his hive to recharge the shields. Minus 50 mass in order to recharge them as fast as possible. And he has the resource and he has the reclaim for it, so why not? He also has sufficient power grid. This is stop building. Finally rebuilt his Nexus, not upgrading. I'm surprised he didn't build any technical power generators with any other island. And Morax seemed to say that he was trying to ask to build a Tech 3 power generator, but he was at unit cap, so he couldn't, which is actually possible. So yeah, looks like Taizai managed to beat off this final attack, and Morax still has the superior ASF numbers, but nothing happened from it. Just a piss amount of ASFs. Oh wow. Yeah, so you can see like in the mid game at least, air control was vital. Torpedo bombers started breaking everything, tipped it one way or another. This gave Taizai massive advantages. He built a nuke that got blown up. He built a disruptor that got blown up, and he still had enough to build a third one and got away with it. And Morax had air control, but in the end only used it at the very end. Didn't secure this mass build in time, and didn't reply to this very well. Even though he had the advantage of winning this island, which he technically shouldn't have because there's a Mantis here. What else can we say? Early game, he had the advantage here. He had air control, he got Tech 3 first, ASF. He should definitely have decided to move on to torpedo bombers in order to tip the naval fight in his favour. Zuis, he didn't actually drop very much. This was denied a fair bit, that was nice. This was never denied. I have no idea what that strat snipe attempt was either. It seemed to target everything instead of the one thing that would have won the game. What else was there? This ACU seemed to have been pimped out in order to do a mission of some sort, which it never did. But okay, it retook this island. The question was, why was it built for that in the first place? Oh yeah, the complete lack of economy is what I wish to blame this on. Even though then, right, you could argue that Taizai had twice the economy of Morax, that at most points had also twice the reclaim, and yet Morax still putting up a pretty decent fight. Which goes to show that sometimes you even if you have superior economy, you still need to use it better. And, well, I suppose that allows him to use fancy toys like this, but, yeah, boy. I claim that both sides are criminal lack of frigates. There was a criminal lack of respect for what air could do from Taizai's side. Lack of SAMs, lack of fighters, lack of radar coverage. That snipe should have killed him and penalised him heavily for that, but it didn't. Morax was, I think I've already said, Morax was incredibly slow in getting, utilising his air control, even though he invested heavily in it. Strats were wasted, basically. Even though he invested heavily in those, they could have pretty much blown up all of this. All of this should have died to strats because there was nothing to deal with it. They didn't have the air session time, there were no SAMs in the area, lack of build capacity with Tech 3 in order to build SAMs. But, oh well, until next time. I hope you enjoyed. I have no idea how long this cast is, but we shall see. Good luck, have fun.